BGK 24/7 online Christian TV network. Making what was once impossible, possible.
Hello and welcome to Real Talk Just for Women. And I'm Prophetess Christine Bowen. And I want to welcome you back for part 2 of Mental Wellness with my special guest, Edna Balboa, with Mind Flow Wellness. And before we get started, I want you to just remind you to download the BGK app. You can find that at your Apple Store or your Google Play Store. Download the app so you can have us on the go. And today I want to introduce to you again Miss Edna Balboa with Mind Flow Wellness. Hi, Edna.
Hello, how are you?
I am great. I am great. We have been given some information that is going to
Yes.
empower us regarding mental wellness and mental wellness with the church. And
Yes.
today we're going to go in again and give a little bit more insight as to what we've already discussed, but to discuss the power of prayer with mental wellness. I think that alone is powerful. So go ahead and get
Absolutely.
us kicked off with this. Go ahead.
Okay, well, for me, talking about prayer and mental wellness is I tell people you would never ask your heart to stop beating or your lungs to stop breathing. And sometimes we want our brain or our mind to stop. Too
Hmm.
many racing thoughts. And prayer
Hmm.
is a wonderful way to kind of bring it together and give the brain something to do, something to focus on,
Hmm.
and also, get that connection that we all need. Whether you're praying with others in the same room or praying alone, you feel connected.
Hmm.
And it
That's
gives
right.
like I said, it gives our mind something to do. And I think a
Hmm.
lot of times, like I said, we get really caught up with, oh, I can't, thinking about this stuff or that stuff. But prayer, in other societies, they may call it mantras or chanting, but it's very much
Hmm.
all in the same line of giving your mind a specific thing to think about. And whether you have a favorite prayer that you can say over and over and over again, or if it's just, a conversation that you have with your God in a way to kind of, again, quiet the mind, bring it some peace, and
Hmm.
then you're able to better filter your thoughts and better
Hmm.
better have some clarity. So a lot of people think I got to stop thinking or I got to turn my brain off. No, it's really great to give it something positive to focus on, and prayer is a wonderful thing to do that with. The other part
Yes, it
is
is.
gratitude. you
Hmm.
know
Hmm.
I often tell my clients and patients that every night before you go to bed, find 3 things to be grateful for. Doesn't matter big
That's
or
good.
small. Sometimes it's a reach. I'm not going to
Hmm.
lie, even for myself, I'm like 3. And other days it's
Hmm.
quite easy, but finding 3 things to be grateful for and giving the mind that to focus on before you go to bed, or even the first thing when you start the day, having these little rituals. So whether it's
Hmm.
meditation and quiet, prayer and quiet, um, so for some, it can even be listening to music. It can be, gospel Christian music. It can be maybe something,
Hmm.
some people just like, acoustic music with no voices or singing, but giving your mind something to focus on to help it calm, to help find
Hmm.
clarity, and to give it a
Hmm.
sense of peace. Those are
Hmm.
very, very good things to help with them with what we would call racing thoughts or just cognitive distortions, when you start getting into a negative mindset, or
Yes.
those are the things that you really want to reach for,
Hmm.
whatever that might be. Even, taking out your Bible and reading it, or
Yes.
I like to have the books that have, a reading for every single day that's broken down
Hmm.
for me. I always find that those,
Hmm.
gosh, I really needed to read this today. And you can
Hmm.
find those,
Devotionals.
devotionals. Yes, absolutely. I
Hmm.
mean, but you can
Hmm.
find them in other things too. There
Hmm.
are some, very, for a Christian, or out straight out of the Bible, like a Bible reading a day, or there's
Hmm.
just some on gratitude, or some on happiness or thankfulness
Hmm.
that you can also look into. And
That's
those are
right.
very powerful.
Hmm. And
And
that reminds me, of the scripture where it talks about we have to renew our minds. That is one of the
yes,
ways to renew our minds. And I like that you come up with three things to be grateful for before you go to bed. And that is a way of literally setting the tone for how you rest.
yes,
We should always pray before we go to sleep, and we should always pray in the morning, be thankful, be grateful, and those things. I think it's the hardest times is when you are alone, number one, and
yeah,
also when you're going through different issues in your life, whether it be
hmm,
you've just lost a loved one, or financial difficulties. You may be one step away from being homeless, because you got an eviction notice. All of these things can take place, but it's at nighttime. It's when you're
yes,
alone that it seems that everything is so loud. And you have to understand what I'm saying. In your mind, in your head, it can be so loud that you can't fall asleep. You can't think of
right,
anything else except for what you're going through. So you literally have to force yourself to think of three things that you're grateful for and
hmm,
meditate on those things to renew your mind. And always
yes,
remember, an idle mind is the devil's playground. So if you're idle, if you're not doing what you're saying, if I'm not being proactive and renewing my mind, thinking on good things, thinking on those things that are above, and just being able to hone in to something positive, then I'm always going to be on a negative. I'm always going to feel like I
right.
fail.
Yes.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
kind of going on to what you said, we feed our minds. And so
Mhm.
that's everything. The music we listen to, the television shows we watch, what we look
Mhm.
at on our social media. And
Mhm.
those
Mhm.
aren't necessarily bad things because we have control over them. With
Mhm. That's right.
social media, we decide what we allow into our feed. I'm
Mhm.
very
Mhm.
specific, say with my Instagram, of who I follow. I don't
Mhm.
follow a lot of people I know. I follow motivational speakers. I follow people, other mental health therapists, psychologists, doctors. So I'm always feeding, I feel like I'm always getting a little bit of education on my Instagram. I use my
Mhm.
Facebook for friends and family. I use
Mhm.
that very specific. But the minute I look at something that I don't feel positive about, or if it gives me that, ooh, or I don't like that, I
Mhm.
unfollow. That
Mhm.
simple. It's not
Mhm.
about people. It's about what am I putting into my brain? What am
That's
I
right.
putting into my mind?
Mhm.
From television shows as well. I personally got rid of cable. I have
Mhm.
Netflix, Hulu, so that way I decide I want to watch a movie. What kind of what movie do I want to watch? I want to
Mhm.
watch a show. What kind of show? And I gave myself control over that. And I often tell my clients and patients, those are tools. We decide
Mhm.
how we use them, and what
That's
we're
right.
putting into our mind is just as important as if we say, I'm not going to have the cheeseburger, I'm going to have a salad,
That's
as what
right.
we put into our bodies. It's just as important because
That's
is
right.
it nutritious? Is it healing us? Is it something that we need? Is it something
Mhm.
that's going to give me a positive outlook when I'm done with it? and
Mhm.
and and yes, sometimes we need to just do something for fun and silliness, and you know
Right.
whatever it is you enjoy, but also being cognizant of, if I get, so let's say if I have anxiety, I
Yes.
need to know that if I watch maybe things that are thrillers,
Mhm.
or listening to very loud music, that might trigger my anxiety more. And then what do
Mhm.
I need
You're
to
right.
do? or even in the vice
Hmm.
versa. If I'm feeling very anxious, what I can play calming music to help me, or I can watch maybe a love story that's or a comedy to help me change and shift where my mind is going with the anxiety.
That's
So
right. And you
finding the
hit something. You actually hit on something that happened to me. It was, I want to say maybe a couple years ago, my birthday time. My son wanted to take movies. And I said, sure, Mom. I said, what are we going to go see? Trust me, I had not been to the movies in a long time. He was like, oh, we're going to go see that new John Wick. And I'm like, John Wick, okay. Yeah, Keanu Reeves. Okay, I know Keanu Reeves. All right. And I tell you one thing, I could not sit through the whole movie without getting up and down. There was so much killing in
yeah.
that movie. It
Hmm.
wasn't a thriller, it was more of an action movie, but there was so much
Right.
killing and that I could not sit still. I had to get up and go, and I went and walked around. I came back, and then go get something to drink and come back because it really did affect me. It made me
Yes.
anxious, and it just affected me in a bad way. And so I
Hmm.
that really does happen, and it can happen.
It does.
What we say in the spiritual is you have to be careful and watch over your eye gates and your ear gates. Okay, so it's whatever
Hmm.
you take in that you see and whatever you take in that you hear. And what are you going to
Right.
do with that information? And how does it make you feel? And so
Hmm.
when now I'm very specific, like you said, as far as what do I watch on TV? What do I want to see? If someone says something or put up something explicit on Facebook, I'm following you. I'm going to delete it. I don't want that on my
Hmm.
page, you know.
Right.
And again, there are people that I follow because if it's something that it has to do with ministry or if it has to do with
Sure.
counseling, how they can get help for abuse and things of that nature, I'll follow that. I'll look at the information, but I do my research first. Just like you
Right.
were saying, it's very important that we monitor what we take in, what we take out, what we speak. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. So we have to be careful about what we're saying. If we grew up a certain way and we've heard negativity most of our lives, unless we get help, we're going to also spread that negativity onto our children.
Hmm.
We're going to speak the
Right.
same language to our children that was spoken unto us. So we have to be careful
Absolutely.
with that. And that's another thing because today our children they're broken, but they don't know that they're
Hmm.
broken. If
Yeah.
that makes sense. They're broken, but they don't know that they're
Hmm.
broken. I've had
This
children
is
to
their
come into the
norm.
ministry. Yes, yes. And I've had children come into the ministry that are cutting themselves because they don't know how to express their pain other than to hurt or
Hmm.
afflict pain on themselves. They're
Right.
also suicidal. They're also, acting out, having sex before time, and things of this nature. These are the things that's taking place inside the church, and we're trying to assist and help
Hmm.
them. But at the same time, inside the home, the parents don't admit that they're also broken and they're part of
Right.
what's going on with their children.
Yeah. Absolutely. One of the things that I try to explain, and I don't like to say that, it's very important that to know there's a difference between an abusive adult or parent and a non-abusive, but there's also things that we don't get in life, and it may not be because our parent was abusive, but maybe they were working three jobs trying to keep food in the house, but they weren't there. So as a
Yes.
child, I didn't get what I needed. That's not the
Hmm.
same as being abused. And
Right.
there's a lot of abuse out there. But sometimes we
Hmm.
just grow up not getting a need fulfilled as a child, and we search it out unconsciously throughout our whole lives.
Hmm.
And sometimes
Hmm.
it is that our parents did the best that they could.
Hmm.
Poverty, food scarcity, it's been shown to
Yes.
show symptoms of PTSD in adults if they grew
Yes.
up with
Yes.
no food in the house. Every
That's right.
decision you've ever made has been filtered by this PTSD stance.
Hmm.
So you've
Hmm.
never made healthy decisions. So not
Hmm.
only does it take, yes, working with a therapist, but I always tell my clients, it takes work on your part. You literally have to reformat and rechange the way you think. It's
That's
very
right.
much like if you have a if you've ever gone hiking, the hiking trails are not paved. They are worn by all these people walking and walking and walking. And
Mm-hmm.
our brain is very much the same. We start out thinking a certain way, say it's a negativity told we're stupid or what have you, that
Right.
negative thought comes into play and it creates a path in our brain. So the minute something comes up, we start thinking, oh, I'm being stupid, or that was really stupid of me.
That's right.
We
That's right.
have to start teaching our brain a new path. No, I'm not stupid. Actually, I do make good decisions. I am
Mm-hmm.
smart. But it takes a
Mm-hmm.
while of thinking and thinking to create a new path. Just like that worn path on the trail, we got to create a new path, and it takes a little while, but it can be done.
That's right. That's right.
It
And
absolutely can be done.
it's positive self-talk. It's motivating
Absolutely.
yourself. You know,
Yes.
there's a gospel song that I love, and it's encouraging yourself in the Lord. You have to be able to encourage yourself, because if you're in a toxic relationship or you're in a toxic environment, you have to create, like you're saying, you have to create a way for yourself to be able to have a clear, sound mind. And that's not
Correct.
easily done. That is not easily done. I grew up in different. You and I have talked about this. I grew up in
Yes.
different situations, different abusive situations, and even some tragic situations. And you go from a child in that environment to even marrying, and now I'm an adult in that environment. And it seems that it
Yes.
carries along with you, and you can't seem to get out of it. However, I had to get to a place where I created my own sound. I
Mm-hmm.
created a safe haven for myself. So that when
Right.
others started to act out or started to show anger and things of that nature, I knew where I could, my refuge was, where I could go, which was my bedroom. Shut the door,
Yeah.
do what I needed to do, change my mindset, not have fear to enable me, but then now take control where I had
Yes.
authority over my life. And so I chose, once I closed that door, now this is my world, so I can control it however I needed to control it, whether it be for a minute to breathe in a paper bag so I don't have anxiety, or whether it was to get on my knees and pray, whether it was to read my Bible or read a book. But I had that safe haven. I had to make that safe haven for myself so that I could close everything else out. And not having
Absolutely.
the opportunity to go through professional counseling as a child or even as an adult, because again, it's shunned.
Right.
People don't
Right.
talk about it all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
my healing, my deliverance, thank you, Lord, truly was an experience with God. It was spiritual for me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone gets that. And it's
Right.
not that it's not available to them, but not everyone gets it. And so
Mm-hmm.
for you, and again, real talk transparency, you had mentioned in the other broadcast regarding how the prophets in the Bible may have gone through some things to where it helped them to be able to see things that we couldn't see, hear things that we
Right.
couldn't hear. It's the prophetic, okay? When you're
Right.
going into the realm of the prophetic, you
Right.
yourself went through some things in your life. You went through
Mm-hmm.
some abuse. You went through, even yourself going through suicidal thoughts, things of that nature. Now you've come out on this end, and now you're giving back and you're helping. In other words, our testimony makes us stronger.
Yes.
What we go through, our journey in life, this is part of who we are, but yet it is a way to show that you can be victorious and you can come out.
Absolutely.
But there are things we have to do in order to get there, if I'm making sense to you.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I mean, yes, I'll share a little bit. I basically had depression since I was a child. I didn't heal from my depression until my late 30s, early 40s. And it
Hmm.
wasn't a one shot thing, it took years. And it took educating myself, it took
Hmm.
changing habits, it took changing my
Hmm.
lifestyle.
Hmm.
And it also took setting some boundaries. I think that's probably the biggest thing I have to teach is setting healthy boundaries for us. And
Hmm.
sometimes that means that we're told that, you know, unfortunately, just because someone is blood doesn't mean that they're good for us.
That's
And being
right.
able to decipher that and creating
Hmm.
our own families. And, that's where the church can be such a resource because we do have to sometimes, we need that sense of family and it may not be biological. It may not. And being okay with that. And something you touched upon that I really think is important that we lack in a society is, how do we teach people to cope and feel their anger in a healthy way?
That's right.
Anger is an important tool. It keeps us safe in many ways. But when we don't know how to express it in a way that's healthy, it comes out in very unhealthy ways.
That's
And
right.
that is, I mean, that could be a whole other show, I know, but being able to cope and express anger in a healthy way could help a lot of people. And even maybe, that's something to talk about. You'd be the expert on that. And how is it in a spiritual way to express anger? Because it
That's right.
is. We need anger. Anger's a motivator when it's done properly. It's when
Right.
it's internalized or put upon in a violent way that it's not helpful.
That's right. And the Bible actually says you can be angry, but to sin not. So what you're saying is
Right.
exactly true. I can be angry, but now what is going to be my response? What is going to be my action? Is it going to be positive action, or is it going to be a negative action to my anger? And
Right.
the copingism is ha- would be, how do I manage my, it's the manage, it's just the managing
Right.
tool. How do I manage, what do I do when I am angry? How do I control my anger to where I don't curse somebody out or hit someone, abuse someone, that type of
Right.
thing, but yet I can express it.
Right. Yeah. And it needs to be expressed. Unexpressed anger is often thought of internalized, which equals depression,
Mhm. Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
It becomes self
Mhm.
hatred, those
Mhm.
feelings. So
Mhm.
being able to express anger in a healthy way is very important. That's where some of the cutting, with these teens comes in. That's
Yes. Yes.
the self harm. I want to feel the pain because I'm in so much emotional pain. If I feel it
Yes.
physically, I can release it. How can I
Mhm.
release
Mhm.
it? And it's finding
Mhm.
different ways for different people. It doesn't always look the same. But
That's
this,
right.
as we're in this end of the year and holiday season, it's important to know that different people are going to be feeling differently. Not everyone is, oh, yay, it's Christmas and joy. For
Mhm.
some people, it's very sad, or it can be very isolating. So
That's right.
understanding, who's around me, who do I need to um, not just maybe give a call, but knock on the door.
That's right.
I appreciate all the postings that I see, or people say, if you're depressed or if you're suicidal, call this 1-800 number. Well, honestly, we need the people that know us to come knock on our door until we open it,
Mhm.
and to
That's right.
show up.
That's
And
good.
and those are
That's good.
very important, because as we're going into Christmas and the New Year's, um, this is when the uptake for suicidal ideation happens. And again,
Mhm.
feeling people feeling that they don't belong, or they're isolated, or that life isn't going to get better for them, need more than just, oh, look, cheer up. But they need someone to just sit with them, not even talk
That's right.
sometimes. Just, you know
That's
what,
right.
I'm going to come to your house and I'm going to sit there. I'm going to wash your dishes for you. Those simple little
Exactly.
acts of being
Exactly.
together can make a world of difference at this time of the year. Because yes, there's lots of parties going on, lots of festivities, but for those, and even coping with anxiety, all
Mhm.
the noise and festivities can be very triggering. People coping with PTSD, so they might also
Yes.
be isolating this time of the year because it's overstimulating. So maybe they need
Mhm.
someone to sit and
Mhm.
just have a cup of cocoa with them in a quiet place,
Right.
just to have a chat. And that can
Mhm.
be something very healing for them, that doesn't look like,
That's
well,
right.
why don't you want to go caroling? Why don't you want to go to this Christmas tree lighting? And that might be, well, there's too many people, it's too noisy. I don't have the
Yes.
energy for that. So, and being able to honor that for that person,
That's
instead of
right.
saying, no, you should, or why don't you, say, okay, well, what can I do with you so I get to spend some time with you and we can both enjoy each other's company?
That's
That
right.
would be something to think about in this time of season of festivities, that not everybody, especially those, again, with anxiety, PTSD, and depression, it may be too overwhelming for them. So it's not that they don't want to be a part, or they don't want to be joined, or they don't want to see you, but maybe they need something at a slower pace, a little
Mm-hmm.
bit quieter, a calmer
Mm-hmm.
for them to be able to
Mm-hmm.
enjoy it.
Yes, and that's one of the things I like also that you said regarding just get up and knock on the door. The church can pick this up as having a care team, and know your, this is where it's important as pastors to know your congregation, know your
Absolutely.
members. If you have counseled your congregation, your members, then you know what they're dealing with. And so we want to admonish you to get up, have a care team, get a care team together to go and knock on the door during the holidays season, because this is some of the loneliest times for people. They don't have, a lot of people have so much pride, they don't want to bother people, they don't want to be a nuisance to someone, or feel like they're also just being a burden on someone. This is the time
Hmm.
as a church that we can actually have a group of people to go out and visit people. We visit people at nursing homes, we visit people at hospitals. We need to go and visit the people that are part of our congregation that we know suffer from PTSD, depression, that are lonely, may not have someone or family here in Houston. And, just show love. This is some of the things that we really need as a church to do, is to show love to other people, to show love to those strangers even. It's been so many times I've come across strangers in a grocery store or at Walmart, and they love having conversation. You can see it on their faces that they need to talk to somebody, or they want someone to talk to them. And so it's very important that we start to go outside the four walls of the church and start to show that love. And another thing you hit on too, Edna, was having that control over your life, taking back
Hmm.
that control over your life, really being specific as to who you let in and who you don't let in. And you said something
Absolutely.
that was powerful, and that is where the church can come in to be a family, even though we're not blood or biological. The church should be a place of refuge, and where you know that you fit in and that it's like we're a family. And I
Yes.
do believe that that is the church that Jesus was trying to establish while he was here, and setting forth the apostles and the disciples to go out and build the churches. That was what the core was, to have love. The core was to not be judgmental. The core was to accept everyone and to lead them
Yes.
to Christ Jesus. We have to have that mindset that we're different. We have different struggles,
Hmm.
but don't look down on someone else's testimony, because their testimony is literally what catapults them, like you and I, into our next.
Yes.
And so, had you not
Hmm.
gone through as a child the depression and other things that you went through, you became a single mother, as I did before I got remarried, and you'll be remarried soon too. Ooh, you caught the bouquet this weekend. Ooh, yes, it's
Yes, I
happening, Lord.
did.
Prayers are being answered. Come on, Jesus. But in the meantime, you had to go through not having food on the table. You had to go through,
Yes.
where was the light bill going to get paid? And yet you got up every morning. You still got dressed. You still went to work. You went through grad school. Your children are wonderful. They're grown now. And you can look back and say, you know what, God, I made it. I made it. And
Absolutely.
everything that I went through, I made it. That is so awesome.
Yes.
What,
Thank you.
my God, I tell you, I can go on and go on, but is there any closing advice that you can give someone today that is
Um,
getting ready to go through the holidays? Because we don't went through Thanksgiving. Now we're getting ready to go into Christmas and New Year's. Is there any advice that you can give us to help us through?
Ask for what you want, ask for what you need, no matter what. Find someone that you feel comfortable asking for what you want, ask for what you need, and do
I
that.
like that.
Mhm.
And when you
Yeah.
say ask for what you want, you're not talking monetarily. You're not talking
Oh,
about,
I'm not
you know,
talking gifts. I'm saying ask for what I want. I want someone just to sit on the sofa with me and hold my hand. Maybe, I want someone to come and pray with me for today because I don't want to go out into the crowd. I don't want to do the Black Friday shopping. Ask for what you need. You know what? I need some help this week. You know what? I'm so depressed. I need someone to help me kind of straighten out my house a little bit, to spend some time with me. We forget that we need to be able, it's okay to ask for what we want and what we need other than monetary things, but emotional support, company, any kind of connection. Again, connection, come. And those small little things that we think, oh, they're going to be, I'm silly, or who wants to do that with me? And those are important. If I feel I need to spend time with someone, I need to be able to ask them, hey, can we spend some time together, just you and me? Or can you go and help me do this because I don't like to do it by myself, or I get overwhelmed by myself. So asking for those types of things, we dismiss ourselves a lot of times and not ask for what we want or what we need. That it is not, again, a monetary or material thing. Those are easy to ask for. It's the emotional, the caring that's hard to ask for sometimes.
Yeah, I like that.
Those
Ask
things.
for what you want. Ask for what you need. I like that because at the end of the day, we could have all the material things. And I look at, and you and I have discussed this as well. I look at those who have had so much money, the Robin Williams,
Yeah.
the Kate Spade,
Yes.
And yet they were dying on the inside and nobody knew except for those that were closest to them. If I was to have met Kate Spade out in the open, I wouldn't have necessarily been able to see it
Absolutely.
right up front that she was suffering internally. All I would see was the diamond earrings, the Kate Spade purses, her beautiful smile. Because we have to admit, we get to a place of looking like this.
Yes.
We get to a place of I can smile great for the camera. I can dress great for the camera. But it's after we get home. It's
Yeah.
after when everything is quiet. So again, I just want to thank you for coming on the show. I want to thank you for everything that you have done, that you've made it through. And you're going to be back on the show again. You're going to be back on the show again. So God bless everyone. And I want to thank you for being on this broadcast. Again, this is Prophetess Christine Bowen with Real Talk Just for Women. Goodbye.